Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is Top 3. I'm Marcia O'Connor. I'm CEO and founder of the O'Connor Group. And Top 3, you guys know the drill. It's where people share their mistakes and their successes. Today, we are so fortunate to have Kristin Smedley from Thriving Blind Academy and talking to us about so many things. But personally, Kristin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Thanks for having this platform and for being a super fun host already. I know we're going to have a good time.
Oh, absolutely. Fun is name my game. And I love it. I love learning about people. I love learning their journeys and what they're doing. That's what this show is all about. But it's also about, people think you become an entrepreneur is like the best thing ever. And oh, you're so lucky. And I'm here to tell you that it's not really about luck. There's a piece of luck into it, but it's mostly about grit and determination. So let's go right into that with you because you started this. Like, walk me through how you even decided to come up with an idea to do this.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was one of those big time planners, achievers my whole life. And I was actually just talking to a group of college kids last week, and I'm like, I declared my major when I was 5. I knew I was going to be a teacher from the time I set foot into the kindergarten classroom. I just knew it. And that's why I planned my whole life. And by the year 2000, I had earned the degree, landed the job, married the guy, built the house, and became a mom. All of my big check
Wow.
boxes, right? Everything that I had planned for and worked for came to fruition. And then as I was holding my perfect little firstborn son, at 4 months old, a doctor said to me, Kristin, your son is blind. And I was like, well, that wasn't in the cards. Michael was actually the first blind person I had ever met in my life. So, all that planning, all of that education, all the things and checking all the boxes. Then I was sitting there on my couch crying for quite a bit of time. But what I realize is, and this is a big lesson for what I learned in entrepreneurship too, my biggest stress and struggles are when I'm sitting in fear and sitting in the unknown.
Yep.
Right. And it
Yep.
wasn't until I really started getting my head around finding information to get educated
Right.
on blindness, and finding other people, role models, a whole nother thing that we could go into for hours on role models of people that have walked this walk before you with all of their epic fails and
Mhm.
successes, which is why I
Yep.
love this show. I had to find out what to plan for in terms of failure, what to plan for in terms of tools to access, the world. And it was once I started getting educated, the fear minimized and action really ignited.
Yeah, but let's go back because, here you are excited. You have your first child, and, you're sitting there, you are a doer, you're an overachiever. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, boom, that curtain was taken right underneath you and just said, hey, guess what? This is what's going to happen now. So your life's going to change. What was going through your head at that moment?
Devastation, sadness. I was pissed, to be perfectly honest. It wasn't how my life was supposed to go, right? And what I've learned all these years later is I was so stuck in how I thought things should be. I was making no room for what could be.
Mm,
And
great
all
quote.
I kept focusing on was loss.
Mm.
The loss of my dreams for him, right? The loss of what I thought he would achieve, the loss of how I thought everything was going to go. And when I started to shift, and it was because when my son was 3.5 years old, he was the one that flipped the switch for me to start seeing gain as opposed to loss. And it was simply him coming into my bedroom one morning when I was at my lowest low, preparing for my second child to be born. And he said, Mommy, isn't this the best day ever?
Oh,
And it was in that moment I asked him, we had a little conversation about why he thought it was the best day. And it was very simple. I mean, he had his toys, he had the sunshine, and he was happy. Blindness wasn't bothering him the way it was bothering me. And it was really because I had dreams for him. And for all the parents out there listening, the biggest gift that blindness has brought me, and there have been a lot of gains with blindness, but the biggest gift was that all of my dreams and my plans for him were extinguished. And I got to sit back and get him access to tools and watch him go after his own dreams. That is the number one gift of my life, that I learned that in that moment. And all three of my kids, I have two blind sons and one sighted daughter. I learned it's their life. And I'm here to be their guide on the side, get them their tools. And then, I mean, where they have soared and taken me since then is unbelievable. But I really had to get out of the should be and make room for the could be and stop. I mean, you think about it. Any challenge you're in right now, you can list a list of loss all day long, right? When you start flipping that switch, and it's very uncomfortable at first, you start flipping that switch and look for the gains in all challenges. It takes a little longer to develop that list, but boy, do they just blow the loss right out of the water.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Absolutely. But you said a great thing there. I said the should, but the could. And it's really taking that and looking at that from a different kind of lens, right? And seeing that. And then you just said something else too, that your second son was also born blind. Obviously, was it also after 4 months that they told you the same thing?
Same exact same time frame, exact same blindness, exact same bleak diagnosis ahead that they were going to have a lifetime of retinal degeneration within their
Wow.
first year of life, which did come to be. Um, but I will say, after watching my son Michael and how happy he was, I had a built-in role model. I didn't have anybody when Michael was born, but once Mitchell was born, I had a built-in role model to snap me right out of that loss, devastation, because I watched how happy Michael was, and he was soaring through preschool. He was doing everything he wanted to do. He was accessing everything he wanted to access. Actually, the only thing in his way was me. I mean, I hadn't gotten him Braille yet because I was scared of that word. The white cane scared me to death. And then when I looked at them as those are his tools to access the world, completely changed. And oh my gosh, you watch it. It might sound, I know that it sounds hard to envision a little 4-year-old with a white cane in their hand. But when you look at it as my daughter that's sighted when she was born, how she looked at it, that's his tool for independence. I'm proud to have my boys with white canes in their hands and all that they've learned to navigate a world. I mean, now my Michael lives in Orlando. It is dream job as a sound engineer with Disney, changing perceptions of blindness all over Orlando and then some, right? I mean, he was a top graduate at Penn State University and won the medal, for top 0.5%. And Mitch was the top 3% of all high school graduates. But that's because they accessed the tools that they needed to manage accessing a world without sight. And it's a simple but profound thing for entrepreneurs too, right? What are the challenges ahead of you? How are you going to build this business? How are you going to do the outreach marketing? All the things you never knew you needed to know. Once you start learning those tools, easier progress one step at a time.
Yeah, but you said a magical statement in there. You said one of the things was holding him back was actually me. And I was the one holding him back. But it sounds as if you picked up on that pretty quickly and you turned it basically, they say, make lemons, lemonade out of lemons, right? And you did that. For him to be so self sufficient now, working for like a top employer, doing what he loves to do, and probably phenomenal at it because he's so more acutely aware of sound than anything else to help him understand the world. He wouldn't have had that patience, comfort, and care without great parents. So you did a phenomenal job. So don't, I hope you know that too as a parent, as an entrepreneur. Sometimes you're so hard on yourself. Entrepreneurs are always hard on themselves.
Mhm.
But you took it and you turned it around and you made it a positive. And you're still hard on yourself, I can tell. But I do believe that, both of them are thriving and that's why you have Thriving Blind, which you started. So tell me how you got that started and why.
Yeah, I actually started a research organization for the actual blindness that my boys and thousands of others have 13 years ago when I was still in devastation, loss, all of that mode. And there was a door that opened here in Philadelphia for a potential for treating this blindness, right? And then after we crossed the $1 million mark in fundraising, one of my very good friends that helped me get to that level saw Michael. So he graduated high school and he was headed to college. And she said, "Are you so excited? We are so close to a cure." And Michael said to her, "You know what? I've only known life as a blind guy. I'm going to go to college as a blind guy. That's how I've been successful. And when I come back, if there's an option for a treatment for this, I'll think about it." Now, she can imagine. My friend was beside herself when he said that to her, and And she said, you've dedicated your whole life to this. How could he say he'll think about it? And I was like, as a mom, that's the success story, right? Oh my gosh, so your kid is so confident and comfortable in their own skin. That's what we hope for ourselves, for everybody, right? He was so
Absolutely.
confident and comfortable. He didn't need to see a change in his life and in his world. One of my most proudest mom days. Fast forward 4 years later, he's getting ready to graduate in the top 0.5% of 10,000 Penn State graduates. He is top in his industry in the United States
Wow.
for the graduating seniors, right? All that Penn State had gotten him all interviews with all the top companies, and every one of them was saying no because of that white cane and what they believe the story of blindness is.
Mm.
So now my son that 4 years earlier was so confident and comfortable calls me and he said, Mom, where are we at with that cure? The world isn't ready for thriving with blindness. And I,
Powerful.
as we moms do, I lost my mind. I lost my mind about that. And I got funding for a short film, and then books came out. I did my TED Talk. I did all the things to change how the world sees blindness.
Yeah.
And then I got together with a friend of mine through a mastermind that actually happened during COVID of all the times. And we were talking about it. And I said, wait a minute. I think that this all, yes, we have to change the story of blindness and disability in the
Hmm.
world, but really it starts with one individual person. It starts in the individual. I mean, like you said, entrepreneurs, we're down on ourselves, right? We're always looking at the loss and not, it really starts in believing in yourself, believing things are possible, taking responsibility to make things happen.
Yep.
So we had to switch, and we had a couple conversations with Michael, and so did one of his Penn State professors, about how are you communicating in
Hmm.
these interviews. It was almost like apologizing for the disadvantage that they might see in the disability. Almost, it was like a weird thing. But when Michael flipped it, and lo and behold, I mean, this is also a testament to fail, 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 and fail forward, fail faster, so you get to that success. He had to
Yep.
fail in all those interviews because then the dream, his number one company, comes to him. He made it all the way through. And at the final interview, after all that fail, he was proudly communicating how he was going to impact that company because of his lived experience and the
Sure.
challenges he overcame and the strategies that he has to navigate this world. The woman was in tears. She had never heard anybody communicate how they can empower a company so deeply. And he has had success there more than we could ever have imagined in less than 2 years.
Awesome. I love hearing that story, but you're probably right because people automatically assume sometimes. I mean, they do. They judge immediately. It's like, is this going to be extra? Do we have the accommodations for it and all too? And not realizing they've gotten this far in their life. If they're not, and they've top of their class, so they know what they're doing. Sometimes you have to
Yeah.
basically say, hey, you can, like you said, thriving. Anybody can thrive, but it's extra hearing, it's extra pieces like that where I know that like even my son has like hearing stuff going on, and he hears really really well, probably stronger in the left ear than his right ear, but he hears fine. It's just much higher pitch than we can hear, and it has helped him so much in his video business because he could hear the tunes and the
Mhm.
sounds and the transitions and stuff like that way better than a normal person. And everybody looks at it as like a disadvantage. I'm like, actually, it's an advantage that you haven't thought about before. So the fact that Michael did all that is so amazing. But again, though, he needed your help to get there. So keep that in mind. Like, please, take the time to acknowledge that and realize that it takes a tribe. Just like being an entrepreneur, it takes a tribe. So talk to me about Thriving Blind, and I want to hear more too about the fact that the movie, because you talked about the movie a little bit, but how did that get approached, and what are you doing with the movie?
Yeah, so like I said, I realized it's within the individual first and then the outside world. And at Thriving Blind Academy, it's a global virtual, again, COVID crashed so many things, but it opened so many doors and mindsets to really try things in a new way. So we're now able to access um, literally our virtual summit. We just had 6 continents, I think 37 countries, all these families, individuals all coming together. But there's, a couple different pillars to it, and mostly it's working with individuals, and then, my sweet spot with parents, because parents are so crippled in fear when they hear that diagnosis. And I can speak to that because that was my journey too. My
Sure.
partner in this, my co-CEO, he's a visually impaired adult, so he can speak to people going through vision loss. He had vision and then lost it, so it's a completely different journey. And together, we do these programs and whatnot. But I'll tell you, I that struck a chord with me, that in this day and age, companies, I mean, stellar companies, still
Hmm.
did not see ability in disability.
Yep.
And when all that, and I know that everything, happens all in perfect time. And when Michael was having all of that, all of those the companies that weren't hiring him, and I had been trying for months to get my idea of this. It was initially called The Edge, the competitive edge, and then we ended up calling it The Greatest Equalizer. I was trying to get this film funded, and then I found a friend of mine that does audio description. She connected me to another person at another nonprofit for the blind. We joined forces, and and he happened to have a connection to Salesforce. And I'm like, can you get me in the door to convince these folks? We just need a little bit of funding to make this thing happen. They were blown away. But see, the thing is, and this is what the film focuses on, in this one little niche, when you think about the IT world, right? All computers, all that back end, Salesforce, coding,
Hmm.
all the things. Would you ever imagine an entire team, massive team of people that cannot see are managing that platform, right? We went for, like, what
No.
is one of the most niche of all
Yep.
niches that you wouldn't consider
Right.
blind people having success. And that's what the film is about, showing how people that are blind have that success because Salesforce has in all of their tools accessibility built into their
Wow.
technology. One little thing that becomes the greatest equalizer,
Sure.
right? It levels the playing field for everybody, and then you bring your own unique talents and skills and have a company rise. So we figured, okay, I'm like, let's just go for the littlest. Now the next that we have a feature film that is actually going to be filmed here in Bucks County, um, to show an even bigger concept for people to get their heads around. And that's what I thought my boys. Actually, I should back up for a second. When the doctor told me your son is blind, I I'm not proud of this question, but you'll get me on this. My first question was, I didn't know what blindness really meant. So I go, will he play baseball?
Mm.
Sure. He probably still tells that story at parties. Like, can you
Sure.
imagine this, mom? Will he play baseball? And he had just said the word blind. And he was like, no. But both of my boys did play baseball because the little league here in our town made reasonable accommodations. We didn't ask for rules to be changed, reasonable accommodations.
Great.
And little by little, my Michael was the first one. Little by little, changed how people saw disability on that team. I mean, from 9-year-old boys, right? That
Hmm.
totally changed how they saw it. And they went from the Bad News Bears to winning the championship.
Oh, it's awesome.
It was the most incredible thing. And I the reason I wanted to make this feature film now is because yes, it was an eye opener for people to see the IT world, right? And successful blind people. But baseball, and every time I do a keynote, I mean, I've had thousands of people in ballrooms come up to me. Okay, you got to explain baseball. How I get that they can do school, they can do all these things, but baseball? I'm like, yes, but it's a testament to having a team of people around you. And my Michael talks about this on all kinds of stages. He learned from the time he was little to build yourself a team of people that can do the things that you can't do,
Yep.
that can guide and do all the things. But Michael, actually, he was a valedictorian at his high school. And he said, build a team and be a good team player. He said, but you have to have your head up and look for other people that need you on their team. And he has been tremendous. And I think that's a big lesson for entrepreneurs,
Yep.
that yes, we're out there looking for connections and getting connected to people that can be on our team and help us rise. But when you start putting other people's teams first and you
Yep.
start making connections for other people, it's unbelievable the impact of that on your own mission.
Oh, absolutely. But that's what a great entrepreneur experience there too, because you have to do that. You have to herd cats. You have to get everybody in the right spot. You have to get people that are better than you in many things to be successful, because you definitely can't do it all by yourself. And so all the facts of how his experiences was such like a perfect entryway to entrepreneurship, but also helped you in getting this moving. So tell us more about this movie and tell us more about, like, the underlining theme behind it and all too. And when is it going to be done? And, how can we help you with that?
Oh gosh, well, we're literally just starting pre-production now, and we're doing this. I've got this commitment. I would say it's to my boys. It's the entire blindness and disability community that, the first short film that I did, the other person that I was partnership with on the other nonprofit was blind also. This time, the entire crew, our advisory board, actors, actresses, blind and sighted, from
Well,
soup to nuts, to show the world that it doesn't have to be, accessibility is an add-on, or thinking about this inclusion is an add-on. When it's
right.
weaved in from beginning to end, it just makes for the most incredible impact and results.
It's
So we
awesome.
actually hired a blind screenwriter who is absolutely phenomenal. And interestingly enough, I was sitting in a team meeting at our producer's office, and there's the screenwriter and my Michael having a conversation. And for the first time, probably ever, as Michael was telling his story of playing baseball and all, the screenwriter, who's in he's only in his late 20s. He's a nice young guy that really is kind of closer to Michael's age.
Yeah.
100% understood everything Michael talked about and what he went through with dealing with teammates and making accommodations on the
Yeah.
team. And I could see
Sure.
the neurons firing, right? That he's going
Yeah.
to really write this screenplay in a way that is going to be able to communicate to those of us that haven't been there, that empathy element, right? And that what goes through a person's mind when things aren't accessible
Yeah.
versus when everyone's on board with this accessibility. So that's going to be pretty cool. And then we've got, like I said, filmmakers, the soundtrack is being produced by a good friend of ours who actually had gene therapy to reverse a lot of his blindness. And he
Mhm.
was on America's Got Talent, and he was in the top 10 of American Idol. He's a good
Wow.
friend of ours. He's up in New York. He's putting the soundtrack together. I mean, it is like one exciting thing after the other. And we're filming it right here in Bucks County. Hopefully by summer, if we get all, we're starting the fundraising in February.
Wow. And what's it called?
Right now, the working title is Curveball, but it's very interesting you asked me that, because we're actually going to have our advisory board have a conversation about this and film it so people understand how much thought is going into this. I've always called it Curveball since this season happened in 2010,
Sure.
because blindness was a curveball to me. And I say that in my TED talk too, how this was a curveball in my life. Blindness was not a curveball for my sons. It just is what it is,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
it's quite the curveball when you think a blind kid is on a sighted team, and Michael was an incredible pitcher
Yeah.
that could throw a curveball, right? So all of this stuff, we have been debating this title and what it should be. And I think we might land on curveball, but maybe we'll
Okay.
have a social media contest to name the film.
Yeah. You should. Everybody else is doing that out nowadays, but it takes a lot of time and effort to do that, as well as patience. And it's a lot that what you're doing. You did a TED talk too. How did you do that? Like, how did you do that? How did you prepare for the TED talk? That's not easy.
Well, listen, this is one of my biggest lessons to all of your listeners. If there's a message you want to get in the world, if there's an impact you want to make, do not wait for the right time, because the right time will never come. And it's pretty much in my life, it's always been the worst time in my life to launch something or to take on a big project
Yeah.
is ends up to be the best time to do it. So I had made a commitment, and this is another point, to write down your goals, put those vision boards up, speak your goals into the world and talk about them so they
Right.
start to come to fruition. I happen to be, it was October 2016. My husband of 19 years left for the second time. And as my kids always tell their friends, my mom gives everybody a second chance. You screw that up, you don't get a third. So he left for the second time, and he did not leave peacefully. It was a complete and utter life altering nightmare. Right when that happened, I had committed to being at a networking event, a women's empowerment for business event. And I was like, I am going to keep my commitments to myself and growing my mission. And I was in the coffee line. I'm a coffee addict. All good things happen with coffee. And I happened to be talking to somebody from New York City. got into this conversation. She said that she produced TED Talks. And I said, oh, I just spoke into the world. I want to do a TED Talk in 18
Right.
months. We got to talking about my message. She called me a month later and said, Kristin, I'd like to help you, coach you on that TED Talk. Heard the talk,
Hmm.
applied to host a TED event in Manhattan,
Wow.
got accepted. So the soup to nuts is from October 2016 to then saying yes in November. By March, I was on stage for giving that TED Talk, and it's one of the greatest talks I've ever given, and in the thousands that I've given. And the only way you can prepare for that while your world is upside down and inside out, literally, police were removing him from my home. I was rehearsing in a park nearby.
Oh my
I
gosh.
recorded myself for the whole talk, was rehearsing, listening to myself, and I would run this hill up and down until I got it every part right. And then I would stop my run that day and do it again the next day. I was in the
Wow.
best shape of my life by the time I did that. But I will say this, it gave me such focus on one thing that was in my control.
Yep.
Everything else seemed out of my control. But that one thing, and I had a phenomenal coach that was able to keep me motivated, keep me on schedule, and then deliver a talk that has, I get a message every single day, if not 5 a day, whose life it has just changed in all parts of the world.
Awesome. You should be so proud of yourself on that, because it's funny how things do work. You don't always plan it, but sometimes the right place, the right time, right everything, it just happens to be like, wow, who knew if I didn't get coffee that day, would I ever had that experience? Who knew if that didn't happen at home, that I wouldn't have gotten coffee that day to have that experience? And I can't tell you how many stories I talk to people all the time, and it's like that one time, that one moment change their whole trajectory in regards to their entire life. And I love it because to me, I'm like, that's a world of an entrepreneur, because I do think it's like, that one day it said, today's that day. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take care of this. So it's really cool to see all that. But listen, let's talk about your daughter too, because your daughter had a different experience. She was your other set of eyes at home. And
Yeah.
she basically grew up with two brothers that didn't. And I'm sure a lot of emphasis was on your brothers, the sons, and not on her. And then, how was she? What's she doing today? And how did she relate to it? Because I'm sure she had a lot to talk about with it.
Oh gosh, yeah. And if you see my TED Talk at the end of it, I talk about, the biggest I got to witness what when inclusion and accessibility are in place, the impact that has on our young people and how they get to grow up with that. With all, Carissa has a completely different perspective on this world than anybody else. And honestly, I know she's my kid and I can brag about all my kids. Now she's a freshman in college. Every single teacher, coach, she was a 4 varsity athlete in college, in
Hmm.
high school, and captain of every team she's ever been on. Every parent, every coach, every teacher, and almost every one of her teammates that could verbalize it says she's just different in every good way, because Carissa does not see, like, people, will see a wheelchair or the white cane or something, and we instantaneously have this like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. And Carissa looks at it as, oh, so that's your tool. Everyone needs tools.
Yeah.
Everyone's got something going on, and
Yeah.
it is up to everyone to be empathetic and be on each other's teams and be helpful when someone needs help. It's not a big deal to ask for help,
No.
which most of us are like, I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to act like I don't know something. But she's witnessed a whole different way of going about life. And interestingly enough, I just had a conversation with a new good friend of mine yesterday about introverts,
Mm,
because me and the boys are so extroverted and
yeah.
Carissa is such an introvert, but boy, do introverts have an incredible skill of observation
Oh,
and
absolutely.
standing back and taking it in, as opposed to those of us that come in, I blow the door open and then I'm like, what happened? I didn't see any of that happen. Carissa, from the time she was little, could just watch a room and know exactly who she could trust, who was going to be the wild card, who. It's just an interesting skill of
Yeah.
introverts. It's actually a phenomenal skill of introverts, but she also watched her brothers work hard to navigate a world that they couldn't see. So our house was pretty much no excuses. We had a heck of a lot of fun because
Yeah.
my boys have a sense of humor that is like off the charts, because they're like, face it, mom, we're dealing with all you sighted people that just don't get it. Like, if we don't have some fun with this, like, what
Right.
are we going to do?
Good for
But
them.
she has seen this incredible balance of hard work
Yeah.
and enjoying yourself and going after goals and setting
Yeah.
them and achieving them. I mean, she's sat in so many individualized education plan meetings that she knows how to do learning goals and all that, right?
I've no
But
doubt.
she's now she's living her dream. She's playing basketball on a full scholarship at a D2 school and absolutely loving life and
Oh, that's
is
awesome.
just super cool to hang out with.
Yeah, absolutely. But you should be so proud. All three kids went to college. They're doing great. They're doing what they want to do. They're living their lives and all too, and they have hope in themselves. And that takes a lot. But I know you went through an awful lot and probably a lot of tears to get there. I mean, I think a lot of
Oh,
it's not just being an entrepreneur, it's being mom, it's being that caretaker, it's being that supporter. Like, I might be crying inside, but I have to be your supporter and my shoulders are tired, because I
yeah.
feel like you've been leaning on me, but now I'm happy for everybody. But it's hard. How do you take care of you?
Well, I will say this in the beginning of my divorce back in, like I said, everything was upside down and inside out. And I was at the bottom again. And I believed in myself and believed that I deserved to rise out of that. Right. And I think
Yeah.
that's the first step that we have to take is that we are worthy of that extra care for ourselves too.
Yeah.
I just didn't
Hmm.
know where to begin. So I did get a therapist she was phenomenal and taught me things like narcissism I had never heard about. So she really
Hmm.
started again getting me out of fear and getting educated, right? That was a step one. I have soccer teammates from my high school team that we are still in this group text and get together once a year. We started doing conference calls every Saturday morning to just go through what did I need? What resources are available for my kids? What are all the things that I needed to have in place? And I did a lot of reading and picked
Hmm.
up books and stuff. But I will say one of the things that really started to turn the ship. I actually sat there one day and I was so sad and angry and tired. And I thought, when was the time in my life that I was at my happiest, happy that I could ever imagine? I was at my happiest, happy. And it was when I was 10 years old, met my best friend, and started playing soccer.
Yeah.
You know what I do to this day? I spend at least 20 minutes once a week, or sometimes 5 times a week, if it's one of those
Right.
weeks,
Hmm.
kicking a soccer ball around. I got
It's
back
awesome.
into something that really made me happy.
Happy. Sure.
Took 20
Yeah.
minutes. I did try hot yoga too. I don't know if I don't know if that's for everybody, but kicking a soccer ball at the hockey rink, that sure worked wonders.
Yeah, but you found something that you loved, and it basically brings back good memories and all too. You were good at it, and you're still doing it, and you have a bunch of friends around it as well that have that same cause, and they want to help you. And I think that's the coolest thing about an entrepreneur. We're always afraid to reach out for help. We think we can do it all because nobody can do it better like we can, and we're so wrong in that because so many people want us to help us. I mean, there are people out there that don't. Don't get me wrong. They're like they don't want you to be better than them. They just don't. But you have to be. I call them trees. You have to go around the trees to get what you want in life, and just be like, you know what, I don't need to hear this. I'm going to go around you, but I do think I'm just so proud of everything you have accomplished and all too. So what's next for you in Thriving Blind?
Well, we've got this is quite the 2024 coming up. I was just hanging out with my co-CEO and founder to look at the schedule that we've got. We are launching a pilot program here right in my town for high school seniors that have not gotten the success mindset training that my boys I realized had
Yeah.
all along, right? We're we're actually doing it in a cool way where we're going to work with high school kids, but also bring in the local business owners. So it's that
Mhm.
win-win, right? They
Yeah.
see the ability and disability,
Hmm.
and the kids will be meeting, well, young people will be meeting these other businesses where they can get summer jobs,
Right.
mentors for what fields they want to go into, right? That, and then like I said, we've got the film going into fundraising and production. And I just released my children's book in mid 23. It already won a ginormous award, and that now we're getting out into all the school districts. It's super cute. It's What I Can Be Is Up to Me, and it's for 6-year-olds, first graders, blind and sighted. It's printed in braille and print in one book.
Nice. Hmm.
All the illustrations were done by a visually impaired artist, and they are super cool. And you don't know that all the characters, they're real people, and you don't know that they're blind until the end. And it reinforces the whole everyone has abilities that make you you. But this is now from the youngest minds, right? Because when Michael was 6, that's when he met the blind mountain climber that had just summited Everest.
Mm.
That was a pivotal moment in his life. And I'm like, you know what? All kids need that pivotal moment to say, I believe that I'm in control of what I want in this world and I can go get it.
Oh, did he meet Eric? Is that Eric?
Yeah,
The
he met
yeah.
Eric Weimer.
Oh, Eric's
He's a good
amazing.
friend of mine.
Is
He's
he?
actually on
He's
the it's a him on the cover of my children's book now, but he did the foreword for my first book. What a
a
cool guy.
cool guy. Oh my God, I saw him talk and was wow. I could talk about that for hours and days because it was just so monumental in my life at the time too. So he's a
Yeah.
wonderful man for sure. Great story and great role model as well. So for sure.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so you don't stop. You are basically what I feel like the shoulders and sometimes the legs for not just your own kids, but also I think for other people who are blind. And you share that. It's like I see no stop for you, which is great. Keep going out there. Just take care of you that you don't burn out, because so many people are relying on you. But I love that you're doing and you're just going for it and saying, why not? And the only person stopping me is me. So I think it's great. It's a great entrepreneur story too, because so many entrepreneurs are like, well, I've done this. I probably can't do anymore. I'm like, no, you probably have a lot more you can do that you're just actually pushing back on you because people are telling you like, oh, you got too much on your plate. You shouldn't do anything more. And you have to like, again, go around the trees and figure out what's really good for you. So what do you do? Do you read books or do you listen to audibles?
I read books and I am a podcast junkie. I mean, I
Oh,
am a podcast junkie. Even on I'm in this in a newer relationship. It's been almost a year with the most phenomenal man on the planet. So ladies, gentlemen, if you are in your single season of life, just hang in there and work on you and your dreams. And the person just drops in out of nowhere. I am a testament to that. But we work out almost every day together for an hour. And when we are on the Stairmaster, I used to have my playlist. And now I am such a podcast junkie that he cracks up because I listen and it's all different kinds. I'll listen to entrepreneur, I'll listen to social media, and then I need like my once a week, I've got my Lewis Howes with a guest that's telling me how to, take better care of myself and
yep.
go after my dreams, but all different. I mean, you can learn so much from podcasts. It is, and I can do it last week here in Bucks County, and I'll be doing it again today, pumping out my basement of all the water, put on my Bose headphones, and I'm listening to all kinds of things, learning about what should I be doing for an Instagram reel. Hey, why not take an opportunity to learn
Yep.
and also to chill with some of the really cool, fun podcasts.
It's so funny. Like I hate doing laundry. I do. I can't stand folding everything again. I literally will be like, you know what? I try to stop saying I hate it and be like, I like it. I like it because I listen to my books. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I do all my laundry at one time and I spend like a good half an hour to 45 minutes listening to my book. And I feel like I accomplished two things at one time. But I try to change the whole dynamic as to stop saying hate and start saying like, oh, I like it because I'm doing this. And it's just so I'm a big Joe Dispenza listener as well. And
Mm.
he always talks about it's not about, you can't say that because your body feels it as well. And I think that what you're doing is just radiating and you're thriving in the thrive world. And it's showing in everything you do and what you're saying, everything you've been. So it's so cool. How do people either help you, help contribute, and get the word out for you? How do people get in contact with you?
The best place to land is kristinsmedley.com, which this will make it memorable. I bought that website like 2 days before my ex-husband was like, I'm done. I'm like, well, I just bought Kristin Smedley. It's like I couldn't go back to my maiden name. I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna make this memorable. But it's kristinsmedley.com. I am Kristin with an IN. I did buy Kristin with an EN too for all the people that just can't seem to get their head around the INs, right?
That's great. Yep.
Um, but that, like, you'll see kristinsmedley.com/film is where we're going to start doing all the updates on the
Mhm.
film and where you can donate to that. And we're going to have the big launch party coming in February here in Bucks County. And you can also see my books there, all the different projects I have going on, and follow the blog because this is where I really go deeper into how you look at things as gain versus loss
Yep.
and should be versus could be. And then there's always funny stories about my kids. And I will admit, and all of my kids will nod their heads. My stories about my middle child are the funniest ones. They get the biggest reviews
It's
because
awesome.
he's also why I have this hat on. I didn't color my gray today.
Nobody
Thanks.
needs to know
Paul.
that. I wouldn't even pick up on that. I promise you. So it's all good. I still am a hat girl, so I understand, and I'm totally jealous again. So for sure. Well, thank you. Thanks for the time today. Thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for making a difference and seeing life differently. Because for your sons, they see it the way it was, and most people don't see it that way, and will never understand that because they don't have that. But your daughter is also too just something so precious out there as well. And I see so many more great things out of you. I see I'm obviously a movie, more books, more TED Talks and all too, but the fact that you are changing more lives than you can ever imagine. I hope you do take some time, sit back and be like, you know, I did this. But knowing an entrepreneur, you always say to yourself, did I do enough?
Yeah.
Is this enough? Am I doing in my life? Am I making, what's my legacy? Is this my legacy? Or should I be doing more of my legacy? So I totally get it. But what you're doing is phenomenal. I'm so proud of you. So nice to have you met you on the show today. And keep on rocking out there, girl. If I can do anything for you from the O'Connor group, please reach out to us anytime. Okay.
Oh, thanks so much. And thanks for all your listeners for tuning in and tuning into this podcast to get, the next right step to going after their own goals and making the impact in their part of the world. So thanks for hosting it.
Oh my God, my pleasure. And the first word you said was fear. I think entrepreneurs, that's number like our middle name is fear. And once you get over fears of each thing and each step along the way, it does get easier. It's still fearful, but just doesn't make it as fearful. And I think people have to realize that. So with that, I will leave it there. This is again Marcia O'Connor. This is Top Three, where entrepreneurs are learning and sharing their secrets and mistakes. And today we had a wonderful guest, Kristin Smedley, talking with Thriving Blind Academy, and she's obviously amazing out there regarding writing books and films and basically, just TED Talks, you name it, and you haven't heard the last of her. I can promise you that. With that, guys, take care out there. But like I said, fear can be used to your advantage. Don't forget that. But don't let it stop you from living your life. So until then, I will talk to you guys later and take care.